here to be representative of the general public. I'm talking about the 2008 North Jersey Transportation Planning Authority visioning meeting. I was troubled at the time that the moderators in the process seemed to have an agenda. It was not until I examined the New Jersey Transportation Planning Authority Plan 2035 and plans like this proposed plan that I truly understood what happens at these meetings. For example, I was shocked that the New Jersey Transportation Planning Authority 2035 next year had 8 capital investment strategies, and the only one that addressed roads says improve roads, but limit capacity expansions. Talk about missing the mark. There you go. One of the members of my group is a very vocal enviro that was sworn to getting all of the cars off the road to save the planet. Although an environmentalist myself, and Jeff's around here somewhere, I find it hard to appreciate the unbridled passion and near complete lack of practical understanding, typical of the vociferous enviros that seem to be omnipresent. I cannot help but feel that the true representatives of the citizens, taxpayer public, were working to earn a living and generating tax dollars to support the writers of this proposed plan. The rest of our government did not have time to spare away from our jobs or families, and hence we placed our trust in their government, our government, to do the right thing. Henceforth, trust but verify is now the order of the day. So these kinds of plans took years to form. I'm talking 10 years ago these public hearings took place, and they all got rolled up in these cross-county acceptance reports. I really didn't get to talk about the false choices I ran out of time. But all these discussions that you have are all based upon a pre-structured question and answer period with limited multiple choices that funnel you down into a predetermined outcome. And that is the fundamental tenet of how Agenda 21 gains any credibility and gets itself in a position where any of us would ever even begin to envision that it's acceptable to us. Of course it is not. Again, this master plan, as it's proposed, has to be rejected in its entirety and started again fresh. And you can talk about that.
Mark is Rich, M-A-T-R-I-S, Tiana.
Hello, my name is Mark Quick and I'm from Warren County. My family's been in the Warren and Sussex area for over 300 years. If this plan is allowed to be passed and put into effect, does that mean my grandchildren will no longer be allowed to live in Warren County? You're going to pack them up and move them into a city? We sit here and we talk about we talk about our property rights, and if you sit back, Thomas Jefferson in 1805 warned us all what was going to happen when we allowed the banks and their institutions around them to grow up and control our government. We'd be delighted of property and liberty, and this is exactly what this is bringing forth. I asked a simple question before: how come in these resolutions that are getting passed through Sustainable New Jersey, the Highlands Acts, and good parts of this here legislation that they want us to eat and swallow, and they try to hide with gay marriage in the papers? Where's the newspaper reporters in here? Is there any in here? Where are they? They hid this and they've done everything they can. It's just like any time else we have anything to come up. It's hide. The gay marriage issue was brought up so they could hide this, so they could run it down our throats so we don't have no say in it. And it's got to stop. Underpinning the underlying all this here, if you start looking into the interest and the people that have been paid to speak up here, I guarantee you most of the assets behind that are all from the banking institutes. And it's got to stop. I mean, you sit here, he says, oh, no, I don't know what Agenda 21 is. How many of these meetings have you been to? How many of these have you been to? You've been to 4. This is the first time Agenda 21 has been brought up. Well, you said you had no idea. Don't you think the first time somebody brought it up, maybe just out of curiosity, you go home? I mean, I ran for the state assembly last year. I brought this up, and you know what? Because I'm not a Republican and I wanted to run against a Republican ticket, I was, we can't talk about those issues. Every time you turn around, the press wants to hide what you people are doing to us, and it needs to stop.
Thank you. After which is Lucy Sherry.
Sure. Thank you. Before I make my comment, I'd like to ask a question. The current plan is 393 pages. This draft is 41 pages. Is it going to stay 41 pages, or after it's approved, will it grow and will details be added to it?
It will be approved probably around this length. It'll be 600 pages.
Okay, so it will grow. Okay. Page 11 of the draft discusses two growth plans, trend and plan. It says that the trend is as a continuation of the current sprawl, and we've heard people talk about sprawls. And basically that's just moving from urban areas to suburban areas. It's what we used to call the American dream. Now it's called the American nightmare. The draft says that sprawl is not sustainable. That's what Agenda 21 says. Same thing. Now the plan, the other section, the plan, calls for putting state resources into urban areas, raising population in urban areas.
Like they have shitholes now.
Urban areas are pretty much densely populated now. The only way you're going to get more people into the urban areas is to start building these multiple dwelling buildings, which Agenda 21 calls for. They call it stack and pack.
And they failed.
They have them everywhere.
They have the projects.
Now, the draft refers to this as smart growth, bringing people back into the urban areas. So does Agenda 21. That's where the term smart growth came from, Agenda 21. The plan calls for acquiring open spaces so that there's regulation on how you can use the open spaces. Agenda 21 says the same thing. Now the draft continuously mentions regions, but there's no mention of individuals. Agenda 21 doesn't mention individuals either. Fifth Amendment of the United States Constitution protects personal property. Exclusion of protection does not work. We found that out with the Stupak resolution. If you don't have it in there that it's protected, it will not be protected. And lastly, I will turn around because I want to address this to you guys. Two of us here are giving a presentation in Sussex County on March 10th. We're giving it to the 24 municipalities, the freeholders, and our 3 state representatives. They've all been invited. It's going to be talking about Agenda 21, Sustainable Jersey, and the state draft, and how they're connected. So, since you haven't learned anything about it, I am personally inviting you to attend that presentation so that you really know what Agenda 21 is and how it connects with not only Sustainable Jersey, but the state plan.
Thank you. After Lucy is Meredith Machitello. I'm sorry about if I messed
Thank
up.
you. I'd like to follow up with what Rich was saying, with what a number of us talked about earlier, about the high-density living environments that we believe this plan is moving us toward. Do you know how that tenet of the plan came about? It came about, if you read the plan, via a 2011 study by the National Association of Realtors. So I went in and looked at that plan, the study, the entire study, and what I found surprised me. What I found is that the overwhelming majority of respondents do not want to live in that type of environment. 80% of them actually said they prefer suburban, small town, and rural living, and 80%, around 80%, say they prefer single-family detached houses. Only 28% of the respondents from that National Realtor study on which the plan is based actually want to live in mixed-use suburban environments. I don't think this plan can go forward based on a living environment that the majority of respondents don't want to be in. So I'd like to ask, please, stop this plan and let's refocus. Thank you.
Thank you.
After Meredith is Robert Simpson.
Thank you. I was raised in Bernardsville. I graduated from Rutgers, New Brunswick. And I lived in Nutley and Belleville in rental units. And I was fortunate enough to save enough money and buy my own home in Bloomingdale. My salary is a good one, but I can't afford to live in Bernardsville, and that's okay, because I don't believe that a Garden State value should be economic equity. We're all diverse individuals, and we all have special talents and special needs, and we're not the same. And diverse communities are what we need. Bernardsville has a glitter factory in the middle of a cow farm. I believe under this plan, the regionalization of industry clusters would not allow for something like that. Butler, the neighboring town to Bloomingdale, had one of the foremost rubber mills at the turn of the last century. They bought up all the farmland. They paid and bought and donated land for the schools and the churches. They basically built the community. I think we're moving in the wrong direction with all of the planning, and we need to go back to letting the individuals and the private businesses work together to build what they think the community needs. When you look at, as well at AT&T, Hoffman LaRoche, the railroads when they were being built, these companies would build houses to rent to their employees. Well, there was the affordable housing. COA just made a great big huge mess out of this state. I participated in Bloomingdale's visioning process back in 2006. And there were some good ideas brought forth. One of the complaints a lot of the residents had for the planners was that we had a lack of parking. It's not something I agree with. I think we have plenty of parking if people are willing to walk. People's lifestyle is not that of walking. And that goes against Garden State value number 1, which says that people want places they can walk to. So our vision came out from the planner, and it had less parking than we have now, and it had 0 gas stations. Even if we go towards electric cars, where are we filling up our electric car with electricity? And we really didn't get the answers from the planners from that. The other thing I just want to say, more to going in the wrong direction, is that Texas was mentioned, but also Florida now has just recently gotten rid of its Department of Community Affairs and gotten rid of its state zoning, and we're going in that direction. Despite it saying this is not top down, it is top down. It's like in Obamacare it says this is not a tax, and they're arguing in the Supreme Court that it is a tax. So just because it's written on paper does not make it true. Thank you.